All right.
All right, I'm recording.
You all
too.
set? Yeah. How's it going, Mike?
Awesome. How are you, Frank?
Doing very well.
Good to see
Welcome back to another episode of Perspective Shift.
you. Welcome back.
I don't know what episode it is, but it doesn't really matter.
Just
It's
keep
now.
count.
It's episode now.
It always will be.
So, did you have a good week?
I had a great week.
All right.
Yeah, nice, relaxing, fun, exciting.
There you go. That's what it's supposed to be, right?
Absolutely. How about you?
Yeah, it was nice. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Excited for your vacation?
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tahoe.
That's gonna be nice.
Yeah, it is. I guess I'm always excited.
That's the
Until
only
I'm
way to-
not. And then I'm not excited.
And
Yeah.
then it's just fine.
Yeah. That's my perspective.
What do you want to start with?
What were you talking about earlier? Expectation.
Correct. So
All right.
expectation. Expectation is important. Expectation. So how I kind of view expectation is, in a way, it is a perspective, but your expectation is going to be a driving force that you have for which way you're going to kind of carry your energy with you.
Yeah.
You have an expectation whether something will be seen as preferential or something to be seen as non-preferential. So when the biggest reason behind expectation is, or the biggest, I guess I should say, the biggest factor behind expectation is what we put our intention on or what we put our thought on is likely going to be the reflection or the experience that we'll take. So if we go out with an expectation that there is going to be doom and gloom, or an expectation that something will be, this event will be horrible, today will be rough, today is going to be so stressful, we will absolutely see all of the expectation we have and feel all of that expectation, that pain, that suffering, that strife. On the flip side, if we can view or set an expectation of a positive day or a successful time, the way we look at that expectation is often going to be how it is directly reflected back to us.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And then, so to stay clear, because like there's multitudes of ways to explain it, but when I talk about expectation, where do I place my expectation on is a vital point. So a lot of people will say, I want it to look this way, I expect it to look this way. That you have no control over. So the expectation should be placed on how you feel. So you hit that in the first part when you said, I expect to feel this way throughout the day. So when you actually place, so sometimes you can use your imagination to see a certain thing happening, to raise your frequency, to make you feel good. But drop the expectations of it having to happen a certain way and just hold on to the feeling. And then the feeling will guide you through life, or through the day, if you will. And when it does, you'll recognize it. And that's the expectation. So the expectation ought not to be placed on how it should turn out, how it should look, who's going to hand me the money, where is it coming from, it's coming from the left or from the north, from whatever. That will get you lost because you're trying to figure out the directions before the GPS even gave them to you. But if you hold the feeling of the expectation, the GPS, higher self, will give you the directions according to how you feel.
I love how you said that because that's true.
So if you're like, I'm expecting a left and the GPS says make a right, you're like, wait a minute, now you're just blown off course.
Oh, yeah.
But it's knowing that the GPS is going to give you a direction when you get into the field of where the directions are lived, such is in 300 feet, make a right-hand turn. Well, you have to be within 300 feet in order to get that. That's a frequency output. So put yourself there in the feeling, and you'll actually, the expectation of how you feel, whether it's good or bad. If it's bad, you better take responsibility for ending in the hellstorm that you drove into, but no big deal. The expectation is the feeling output, and that's the place that I call the expectation. That's the important part. Don't have expectation to how it's going to, how it looks like. Take your attention off that, because the There's too many variables out there. If we knew, we wouldn't be doing it. It's already done. So, and that's it. And that's we talked about this earlier. Like the expectation of people that we deem to be successful and the people that we deem to not be successful. Again, it's very difficult to look at somebody and say they're successful or not successful, but the world has a viewpoint. And the viewpoint that the world has isn't completely out in left field. There is some validity to it, all right? But that being said, people that you truly talk to that are truly successful, their output of feeling, how is the day going to turn out? Don't know, but I know it's going to turn out great.
Absolutely.
And it's the expectation that it's going to work out, regardless whether it's raining or sunny out. But if you need to be sunny out, you're being led by the weather. And we know how that goes. Not even the weatherman can get that correct, and they went to school for it. All right?
Exactly, though.
So hold on to the feeling of what it is you want to feel like. So in other words, if you wanted a certain outcome, what would it feel like to have that? Well, that's the feeling you should hold on to. Drop how it's supposed to look. Because most of the times it turns out way better. At least it'll turn out the way you saw it or thought about it. And then that's kind of cool. But when it turns out even better, like I never expected that, I'm like, yeah, because you didn't know. We don't know. But we know how to generate a feeling. And don't let the outside world be that generator for you. It's here. And then transmit to here. And then the transmission begins. We are a transceiver. I mentioned this, we talked about this before. We transmit and receive energy all the time. The energy I'm transmitting out to the to universe is how I feel. And then what? I receive information based on how I feel. And then I act on it. So if I'm not feeling good, I'm going to act on it and then perpetuate this negative, what we call negative, which let's call it non-preferential. Thank you, because negative energy isn't evil, it's not bad,
we need it.
We need it. You take the negative pole off your battery in your car, the car doesn't drive.
Yeah.
It's a reflection. So anything that moves this way, zoom, it's a mirror image. So so positive would be my corporeal self, which we think, even though it's a hologram. And the negative part would be the mirror reflection. That's it. So if I do this, the mirror does this. I do this, the mirror does this. So it's negative, like a negative on a film, a photo.
Strip.
It's a negative, but it's a mere reflection. It isn't the actual containment. It's just reflective of other photons coming back at me. So it doesn't have a bad connotation. We use the word negative. So just to clarify that. So preferential direction in which you want to go. And most people, if not all, know what preference they want to go in. So set your feeling on how it would feel to have the preferential life you want, and then watch what happens and stay connected.
On that same note, I think that one thing that people put on expectation is whether or not they deserve it, whether or not they deserve to feel a certain way.
And that to itself is an expectation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we sit there and back and forth, we toil in our heads where we say we are deserving or non-deserving of certain situations.
Yeah.
So begin to realize you deserve every situation.
Yeah.
You deserve anything that you want. Absolutely. It's the type of thing where we will not break a barrier, will not pass through growth because we feel like we don't deserve to be at a certain level. So when you can take that away and you truly understand that you deserve to sit at that table or to be part of that project, it changes the whole landscape of everything. And ultimately, it is what allows you to truly see yourself in that role.
Yeah.
So so tell yourself, anytime you're having any sort of non-preferential feeling, do you really deserve to feel that way? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And this happens often in relationships: male, female, female, whatever.
Yeah, no, in all areas of life.
Yeah.
And the one thing, so that's
non-deserving.
See,
separate.
So kind of like what you and I are working towards in helping other people and at the same time helping ourselves is how do we get from that place where I don't deserve to have a seat at the table to I deserve a seat at the table? And it's gonna sound weird, it's paradoxical. Be okay with feeling you don't deserve it. So accept the non-deservance. When you fully accept it, you then come to a neutral state. You literally have to accept it. It's okay if I don't. There's other tables. So what if I'm at the smaller table? So what? Who cares? Next thing you know, when you're in that neutral state, sitting at what you think is a smaller table, because all the tables in the universe is the same, we're the ones who create the meaning to it. That being said, when you allow yourself to be okay with where you are, that's when everything opens up in a neutral state, and then you realize, I am at the big table. I do have a seat at the table. I just wasn't aware of it. So a lot of times it's not that you're not there, you just don't see that you already are that in which you want, because you couldn't want something you already aren't. That's the key. So accept the fact that you feel you're not deserving to be at the big boys' table or the big girls' table. Okay, it's fine. No big deal. Even if you have to say one day I'll get there, accept it. And once you accept it, you fall into this neutral because it's comfortable. Because if you felt that you could never get there, that is torture. I'm not deserving. And then you kept reminding, I ought to be there, but I'm not deserving. Who cares? Who cares if I'm at the big table? Who cares? It doesn't really matter. I'm sitting at a table, I can eat my meal at this table, I can play cards on this table, so what? So who cares? When you have that attitude, all of a sudden there is no table off limits to you. But if you need to be at the table and not deserve it, you're struggling.
And when we're talking about this, by no means do we mean justify in your head with your ego that it's okay to be non-deserving. We're saying accept the situation how it is in the present
how
moment.
You feel.
Yeah.
Accept the feeling. How does it feel to be non-deserving?
Yeah, because never do we want to justify, create, or make these stories about, we're not deserving.
No.
It's recognizing that we feel that way, and accepting it for that moment.
Yeah, the clarification of acceptance. Acceptance is the only, you have to accept where you are to get to where you want to go. So like, if you didn't accept where you are, where the GPS already accepts where you are, acceptance in this case, it knows where you are. If it didn't know where you are, because remember years ago with GPS, before they had the satellite was really working good, you had to put where you were. You had to put the address where you were. If you didn't, so you put the address in line, they said where you're starting from. Mm-hmm. If you didn't put the coordinates where you're starting from, the GPS is like, I can't get you there, I don't know where you are. Mm-hmm. All right, well now the sophistication of the GPS, and guess what, the sophistication of your internal guidance system, your higher mind, is so much better. It always has been. We're just learning this.
That's what GPS is mimicking.
Yeah, it's a fractal, a mere fractal, if you will. So, all this technology is just a reflection of what we already are, and it's helping us. It can help us. It can stifle us. It doesn't really have any meaning until you give it that meaning. I look at this technology. It's showing us the capacity we already have. But once I realize where I am, accept where I am, that's the only way I know how to get to where I'm going. So you call someone up, hey, I'm lost. Where are you? Hell if I know. It's like, well, I can't help you. If you don't accept where you are, if you don't know where you are, I can't help you. Well, I'm facing a mountain. Mm-hmm. So people are like, what's the street sign say and this, that? And all of a sudden you find, I'm on this corner, this corner. Okay, which direction you facing? Well, is the sunset? Okay, I'm facing west. Okay, now that you accepted where you are, I can get you to where you want to go. Acceptance is literally just that. You'll never stay there because the universe is always expanding. The earth is moving at 1,000 miles an hour, flying around the sun, being dragged to this galaxy. You can't stand still. So when you accept where you are, it's not, you're done here, you're going to be sitting in this chair forever. No, that's impossible. Acceptance just allows me to know where I am. Yes, I'm upset that I'm not sitting at the big board table. Who cares? I'm here. Now that I know I'm here, I fall into a neutral state. Where do I want to go? I prefer to go over there. But you have to make that big table nonchalant, because it's the big table is in the mind. It doesn't really exist. The universe doesn't distinguish between a Matchbox Ferrari or the actual Ferrari car in which a human can fit into. We're the ones who give it the value, right? And how do I know this? Well, like for me, if I saw a Matchbox car, I'm like, oh cool. If I saw a Ferrari, well, the meaning I'm giving it based on the value in which society says I should do it. But then look at the 5-year-old kid, or maybe the 3-year-old kid. Like the value to the big Ferrari doesn't have a value because it wasn't programmed yet. But that Matchbox car is everything to it, because to that it might as well be a sandbox.
Everything's relative.
Yeah, it's relative. So create the relevance, lower it, if you will, in order to expand within it. Make it, because every great person that made a great feat, now we're watching their great feat from the place in which we're so far down the mountain. Like, oh my God, how'd they do it? And someone lean over, and one step at a time. They're on their 1,000th step, so to speak. It's the next logical step. It isn't a risk. Nobody takes risks. You don't have to when you understand these laws. But if I'm down here and I see somebody here and I'm thinking I want to get there, but I want to get there now, well, there now is this way. So when they took the next step onto the summit of the mountain, it was the same gate they took at the base of that mountain. It was just the next logical step, making it to the summit. So when you look out at somebody that's what you think is far reach from you, but again, we live in a quantum universe. So there is no distance. When I'm running a marathon, I don't race against anybody. I'm racing against my own time clock. It's when I start and when I cross the finish line that all that matters. It doesn't matter when someone else crossed it. Because if they started a mile in front of me and they're started that way, if I finish a half mile before them, my time was better if you're measuring it in that factor. So don't place your attention onto other people doing it. But know this, we do that to know it's possible. Not to say, oh shit, I'm way behind. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're not way behind. There is no race here. We live in a quantum universe. But when you put your focus on it, one step at a time, one moment at a time, because there is only one moment, there's just infinite perspectives within that moment which create the feeling of time in a linear perspective. When you focus, what happens? Time does what? It flies. Because enjoyment is complete focus. You ever watch a kid play in the playground? They're not like, eh, they're like focused. Getting on that.
They're in flow.
Yeah, they're so focused. Next thing you know, it's dinner time, and to them it's like, what? I just got out here. The sun just came up, and now it's going down. The street lights are on. But it was focused. It wasn't really like messing around, giggling, although that was creating bursts of that. It was focus. And when we focus on something, we get lost in this matrix of time where we can stretch it or contract it. We're actually in control of it. When you're distracted, oh baby, you stretch that baby out. When you're focused, you slow it down. You take the field, the fabric of space, and you fold it, and then the distance becomes shorter.
One good way to describe that, at least that I've lived through and noticed, is a car accident. When everything slows down right at that moment, when you connect and you feel time slow down. Yes, truly. Do you know what I'm talking about? But that moment when you connect and hit, if you rear-ended somebody, or if you've ever been, actually, it's you know what I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
And like that's a good way to describe that feeling of time slowing down. You literally kind of see
Yeah.
Like by frame by frame by frame.
Oh yeah. Like when I came home late from the playground and my dad was pissed off. Oh, time really came to a standstill as he took his belt off. I'm like, ah! Oh my God!
Oh my God.
My dad wasn't a cruel man, by the way. That's what they did back in the day.
Hey,
It was common.
build character.
Yeah, it builds character, yeah. Like I need more character, right?
Shit. That's what we, again,
That was it.
but the
It builds
stories we
character.
tell ourselves.
That's your expectation,
Yeah.
Father,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
mine.
But it's true. We set these expectations for ourselves. Good, bad, preferential, non-preferential. So if we're setting expectations for ourselves on a daily basis, set the right expectations for yourself. Set the expectation of the feeling you want to feel when you wake up and you start your day.
Yeah.
Set the expectation of how you want to see that day, a great week, a growing month, a time for family, a time for friends, a time for success. You set the expectation that you will ultimately find. This is a big reason that I believe that the wealthy stay wealthy and the poor stay poor. I think it is a big deal for how I see it in how people are raised. This goes back to what we were talking about with being deserving. So people hate on the rich and oh yeah, they're giving handouts and all this stuff, and that's unfulfilling. That's a story you're telling yourself. That's your ego justifying it. Ultimately,
Yeah, and if you believe that, you're going to experience that. But if you're not the rich person you're talking about, you're the pauper in the story.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, it's the expectation
Is that
we're
what you
setting.
wanna be?
Yeah, we're setting this expectation for ourselves. So like when we're children, etc., and we hear and we're around these different scenarios, and mom and dad, oh, we'll never be able to afford that, or oh, we don't. That's creating an idea in your head that you're unable to achieve something.
Yeah.
And so more often than not, that's coming from a household where money is tight, food is limited, etc. Everything is just, you're on a budget. So ultimately, if you expect to be on a budget, you will always find yourself on a budget.
You will.
And the flip side.
That's how powerful this is.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
on the flip side, people, whether or not we like to admit this, like a wealthy daughter, son, whatever child being raised, if they're only seeing wealth and opportunity, they're only going to expect wealth and opportunity to show up in their life.
Yeah.
So that's the reason they're truly attracting wealth and opportunity in their life, because they accept it and they believe they deserve it. And then on the flip side, conversely, those who do not accept wealth and accept and see and expect to see poor, struggle, strife, no means to an end, that's what they're finding themselves
They will.
caught in.
It'll be like playing in a puddle with your back to the ocean and thinking this is the ocean.
Yeah.
But yet, when you turn around, there's a whole slew of water. And it's all you have is this measly puddle. And we literally said that, but when you understand that, the beautiful thing is when you wake up to it, when you wake up to it, you laugh. Because, oh my God. I was like, when someone talked about the ocean, I saw this thing, I'm like, what the hell were they talking about? And then you turn around, it's like, oh, this is a puddle that came from the ocean. And so it is our God-given right to be abundant. Now, how one defines abundance is up to them. But we are abundant. We are so abundant, they can have so much abundance of lack. Think about that. You actually have to create the idea of lack in order to experience lack. And that, my friend, is abundance. But is that abundance in the experience of preferential? Probably not, because he's just shaking his head, so that means no.
Yeah, I mean,
No, please not.
who wants to be stuck in a rut?
No,
No.
not me. Definitely not. But you know what? When you get stuck in a rut, accept getting stuck in a rut. So what? Who cares? It's a rut. Everybody's been in a rut. So sometimes telling these stories, and they're just stories, they can help amplify it, or they can help simmer down.
Absolutely.
So everyone goes through this.
And that's the program, though.
Yeah.
You know, that's us needing to make the story because, again, we're in the program.
Yeah.
Our body gets these signals, these feelings, you know, whatever emotion that is, and it
Yeah.
triggers your body that you're feeling anxiety, you're feeling stress, and again, guys, we're working off of a program. You can change when your body feels when you get those feelings, or take them for what they are, which is your body simply telling you, you should not feel this way.
Yeah, and the way to shift out of the program is to realize that your actually belief is the thing creating the program. Because is there really a program? I'm buying into the program. And where the program came from? It came from the outside experience. So it's like looking at the mirror at your hair and saying, I don't like my hair. And it's like, well, let's get rid of the mirror and get a new one. Like, no, the program that we bought into is one of, I need everything to be aligned in the outside world. I need this person to be the president, and this person to love me, and this person to give me a job, and this person do that. And God forbid that person's parked in my parking spot. I'm going to just lose it's going to be over. You're actually being slave to the outside world. But when you literally understand who you are, if you go inside, the light comes from within and goes out, and what we look at through a cornea, our eyes. So when you look at a projector, this would be equivalent to people looking at the screen to think that's really what it is. The screen is nothing but a capture of photons that's running, that the film, the negative, is running past the light and it's being reflective. Remember, you are the projector, not the screen. And then you have the ability to choose what negative energy, when I mean negative, not bad connotation,
Film.
what story, and how do I do that? What frequency output, what contrast am I going to put past the light? Because that's all negative is. It's contrast of light that creates image. And if I move 24 of those past the light in what we call a second, what in a second time is what we call natural movement, 20 frames per second is movement in the way we experience movement in this physical world. You will see the movie, but it wasn't the screen. The screen is just capturing the pixels which are being put out. Remember, you are the projector and you are also the film. And what the story I'm telling you, what expectation am I putting in front of this light?
Heaven, harmony, mind, body,
Because
spirit.
the light will reject a non-preference too. And the screen will pick that up too. It doesn't care. This frequency, this film going past the light, is what we have control over. But the program is telling us, no, shove this in your projector. Shove this in your projector. I'm like, wait a minute. I want to make my own movie.
Our subconscious,
Yeah.
you know, that those
Yeah.
those thoughts.
So you're sitting around watching, it's like, yeah, I've seen this movie time and time again. It always happens. And it's yourself you're talking about.
And that's why work sucks, life
Yeah,
sucks. That's what
every
you get
day.
in that circle. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
it's
get up
Friday.
tomorrow. Yeah, it's Monday.
Yeah, shit, it's Sunday. God,
Yes.
oh, Jesus.
We
Ah,
set ourselves up to feel
Yeah.
that pain and that struggle for.
that's it.
Well,
And you don't realize you can take that film, let it run out, take it, put it back in its tin, put it in the shelf, and then pull out a new sequence. Oh.
at any moment.
Have you ever seen this movie? No, I have not. Well, let's do it. Oh my God. Holy cow.
No age limit, no level of intellect limit. This is for everyone of every age,
Yes.
of every race, of every gender, every part of this world.
We just said it's like,
Organism.
I was cracking up because the first thing that popped into my head was Dumb and Dumber. That was an old movie I made once a time ago.
Classic.
It was. It was
Still
funny
one of
because
my
I watched that. It was beautiful, brilliant, because I remember watching it one time. I was laughing, you know, when it first came out. Then when my son got older, I'm like, hey, you should watch this. And Karen's like, hey, you want to watch Dumb and Dumber with us? She sits down. She's like, I don't get it. I'm like, well, you haven't had the privilege of being dumb. Like I have. That's why I get it. I've moved.
Travel by
Yeah. Me and my son will laugh, and she's like, I don't get it. I'm like, yeah, because you're a woman. You're too smart. Like, get out of here.
You're too smart.
Yeah. It's just like, it's like you have to be dumb to appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, accept where you are and you'll appreciate the movie Dumb and Dumb.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's the key, though. You're right when you say accept.
Yeah. Acceptance isn't a doormat in which one falls to.
No, yeah.
It's the opposite.
Well, people often think that acceptance
It's giving up.
Exactly. They
It's
think
not.
it's quitting. And in
Yeah.
no way is
No.
acceptance quitting. You cannot do anything without being in a neutral state. You can't accept in your intuition, you cannot act on until you find that neutral state. When you're in a state of pain, stress, anxiety, you will not make any right decision
you're going too fast.
preferential decision. You just won't.
Yeah.
It's not clouded. I once heard somebody say, you can't see your face in boiling water. You know, how can you expect to make a solid, good decision when you're angry? You know?
Yeah.
And it's so true. Guys, none of us have ever made a good decision mad. Think about all of the things we do when we're mad, and it's like, oh man, I shouldn't have said that. Yeah, well, there's a reason. Whenever our body's in that, getting that feeling.
And that's what happens is, what's funny is when we get in the upset, we rely on a thinking mind which only knows where we've been. So we take out the vital part of us, our intuition that shows us how to get there. So it would almost be like if you have never been to San Diego, but you've been to Yuma, your mind can only get you to Yuma. And then you're stuck. Then it's like going out to this vast wilderness, which the psyche of the human can't do. You can't do that. You need to know some guidance. We have to do some guidance. But when you're in a really good state, you realize the energy's coming through you. The mind acts on the impulse that says make a right. Well, the mind knows what make a right is. It actually knows the English language and knows what the identification or the definition of right is. So it does it. And because my body's done it so many times, my subconscious knows how to make a right-hand turn. So I turn the wheel. But how did I know how to make the right-hand turn? It was an impulse. In this case, it was through the GPS. How did I know to go down that aisle or not go down that alley or leave the house at the time and do this? It was the impulse based on the state I was in. But when I'm aggravated, I'm going to try to replicate what I've done and just dig a deeper and deeper hole. Because I can only go around and around and around. My mind can't get me anywhere I haven't been. But my mind knows what a right-hand turn is. It understands objects. My higher self can get me to a new place. And then my corporeal mind will recognize it, okay, and then identifies it. And it's obviously always recording. It's recording. But it's almost like if you're, like now they got these, what are those cameras, the GoPros.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was a skier or something, or doing some activity with the GoPro, do I really need to watch it? No, I was watching it. I wasn't holding the camera like this. It's attached to my helmet. I almost forgot it's there. So I'm going down the thing. I already watched the movie. So the GoPro is for somebody else to watch it. Or maybe look back. Oh, wow, yeah. But I was actually watching it as it's been recording. So my subconscious is recording everything that my higher mind is moving me through. And if I'm open and I'm aware, I'm watching it. But it's being recorded. And why I record it, so when happy hour comes, someone's like, how was your week? Oh, let's get a couple of drinks and I'll tell you, you know, and then
The
you go
human
about
experience.
it. Yeah, human experience. And why do we do this? We do this because if I could show up to this happy hour, doesn't mean you have to drink, every day, it's showing me every day I have a new experience. But you certainly don't want to show up every Friday. How's it going? Yeah, same old stuff. So like every day, yeah, same old thing. Next thing you know, you're gonna walk in and look at the guy and be like, you sit at the bar. You're gonna want to choose a different bar, but it's not the bar. It's because you thought you didn't have any new experience. You actually did. Because even on Groundhog's Day, the main character understood he had a different day every day. It's just that everything replicated every day. But what was different was he perceived it differently. So instead of getting aggravated because the car splashed the water on him, he played with it or stepped out of the way. Even Groundhog's Day could not keep you in that loop. So think about that. Once he accepted what was going on, he played with it and he made it his own. And that's the theme of that.
The essence of it.
The essence of it.
Yeah.
It's the essence of life.
Mm-hmm.
It could seem like Groundhog Day, same old, like, is it
Absolutely.
really the same old day? You're a little bit older, aren't you? Thanks for telling me that. Now I'm even more depressed. It's like,
And again, you're looking at it all wrong.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's like,
yeah.
you're
Or you
here
could
to
be like,
play.
oh, it's one more day to the grave. I'm
Yeah.
closer. And it's like, yeah, that's another way of looking at it.
Great way.
There
It's
you
a
go.
Great
From the
expectation.
cradle to the grave. Everything
Yeah.
in between just sucks.
Yeah.
You know? And these are all perspectives and viewpoints, and these are what people, so if you have that perspective, you're gonna have that expectation,
Mhm.
and it's gonna feel like it, and you're gonna mimic it, until one day you accept it, and wake up and like, well, wait a minute, why don't I make a left here instead of a right? And when you said, wait a minute, you changed the field of energy you're in. And when you said, why don't I make a left instead of a right, that was an impulse from your higher self. It wasn't your mind making that up. That's the point in life. Notice the point when you made the left instead of the right. It was an impulse because the universe said, oh, I know where you are. And I know where you want to go. But if you want to go in a circle, you don't need me. Go for it. I'll be here all along. When you're ready to listen, and when you said, I'm done with this, I'm going to make a left today. That was an impulse to make a left. You didn't come up with it. The corporeal mind did it. Your higher mind did. And it exhilarated. All of a sudden you make a left, like, oh my God, look what's going on out here. What happens if I make a right up here? Oh my God. And that's how life ought to be lived.
I know.
It was designed to live. But yet, we still have free will, we have so much power, we can make this little circle feel like that's all there is in the world.
And that's what we've done as a collective society.
Yeah, we're coming out of it though, we see it. Obviously, me and you are
No,
sitting there
absolutely.
talking about it, and people expanding. People are starting to see expansive life, they might not know the mechanics, and they think, oh, I'm in a lucky point in my life, I hope, and I got my rabbit's foot. Who took my rabbit's foot? Well, now you can probably have an app on your phone. This is Rabbit's Foot. I'm going to come out with an app, a Rabbit's
Called
Foot app.
Rabbit Foot app.
Rabbit Foot app. Yeah. Hey. I'm going to charge you
Hey.
$5 a month for
I
it.
got my rabbit.
You got my Rabbit Foot app.
But like that's the thing. We assign at these meetings to certain things, objects, people, etc., situations, and by all means, assign them. Just create the right story. Create the experience you
even-
want to feel.
Even if you do
We're not-
assign it, because
yeah.
we came here to tell a story.
Absolutely.
So tell the story. We tell it as best you can.
Yes.
Tell it with excitement, and tell it on the fly. Make it up. I remember telling us, I was like, "Is this a made-up story?" I'm like, "Well, every story's made up."
I was gonna say, how you want to look at it?
I'm like, "Yeah, I can,
Is this made up?
it is. It is to a degree, but once we record it,
Becomes
it's in the
capable,
archives.
Becomes matter.
Yeah, it does. And then once we experience it, the experience is what solidifies it into what we call fact. But we chose the experience based on the frequency output, which the impulse, like even the words that you and I going back for, like the word that came through you tonight was expectation. Where'd that come from?
Higher self.
Yeah. And then it led us to here. We didn't have a script. We had no idea. We never do. That's why sometimes we go a little off the rails. But that's what life is. It's about seeing how far it can go without, but keeping the balance point.
And in all reality, everything is connected.
There is nothing disconnected.
That's the thing.
But yeah, we are having a separate experience
Absolutely.
on the same field or the same plane.
We're just connected to one source.
Yeah, it's not this or that anymore. It's
But
just,
that's what we're saying when the world is billions of just perspectives of us just
Yeah.
perceiving the same thing. Like you said, that's what creates linear time. How many people on the planet?
now it's like 7.3 or 7.5.
7.4 or 7.5 billion perspectives. There's time for you.
And even within each unit of those people, when I say unit, each perspective has its billions perspectives per second. a lot of them are very fluid, so you don't notice the difference between them.
Well, that's the thing. Like when we move to one spot to the next,
It's shifting.
technically we disappeared from one spot and reappeared in
Yeah,
another.
yeah.
But how our eyes see it
It's a
because of
quantum
the
leap.
light.
Yeah, because we call it travel, so we
Mhm.
see within the framework. But think about this. So you have 24 frames moving past the light in a second. Each frame is still. So one frame disappears from the light and another one shows up.
We're literally a projector.
There is no movement with just frames per second. So when you slow it down, you see, and you'll actually see the breaking point in the film. But when it's moving quickly, it creates time. With you don't see the delay because of the way we see light and photons. It's moving at 24 seconds. If it's moving slower, it's just moving at faster. You know? I can't wait to see that.
Seriously,
Yeah.
that's funny.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. That's how we experience, etc. And so like we have these limiting factors in this third dimension, which are gravity, sight, hearing, frequency that we can hear to.
Yeah.
Sight level we can see to. So those factors are kind of our building blocks, if you will, of what we have to laws we must obey.
There are physical awareness to the physical world.
Correct. There you
Yeah.
go. Great way to say it. Because that is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other awareness.
We're not saying go jump out of a building because gravity exists. However,
Yeah, well, because we agreed to it.
yeah, I was just gonna say, however.
Now, if you're on
the flip
if
side.
you're on a building on the moon, you can do that. Because the
Absolutely.
gravitational pull isn't as great because the moon's mass, in the understanding of physics, the bigger the mass, the bigger the gravitational pull. Yeah, yeah. But even that's a story, and there's an agreement to it. There's a validity to it in the field in which we're in the game we're in. This is the fact of it. All right. There are other parts of the universe, other dimensions where gravity doesn't have a stronghold or even play in it, but we don't necessarily want to go there because we're here, we're talking about this field we're in right now, and gravity's part and parcel of the experience.
I do want to jump back to like we were saying because I loved how you said, so expectation should always come back to the feeling and that intent that we want to set.
Yes.
Because you're absolutely right. Expectation is not how it is going to happen or how it must play out, because that's not what we're saying at all.
No, because the physical mind can't conceive anything. It can only perceive it when it sees it.
There you go.
Hence the perspective shift.
But a lot of us try to make things
we try.
happen a
This
very
now-
certain way. I must go to this school, get this job, and then I'll be happy.
And then when it doesn't, where did I go wrong? Meanwhile, like you can end up in a more suitable job, a better school, but
By
if you
just being
don't see it, and when I see better or more suitable, the higher self knows where you are, knows where you want to get to, and it's going to show you the road. But you're like, no, I must go this way. But what you don't know is the bridge is down. So when you get there, you're going to have to make a U-turn and go back anyway. So stop trying to figure it out because you can't. You can only perceive through the corporeal mind. The higher mind can conceive everything. It can see that this road is construction's on, so it's going to route you this way. It's going to get you to where you want to go in the path of least resistance. And if you actually enjoy it, you'll enjoy the whole situation. Enjoy the ride. And that's what it is. And how do you enjoy the ride? By giving up having to know what to do.
Because there is nothing we
No.
have to do.
A lot of people
That was a
enjoy.
man-made or human-made
Yeah,
arbitrary concept. There's nothing we have to do except perceive.
that's it. That's it. There's no work to be done.
That's it.
But when the energy field goes through you, you're gonna want to get up and do something.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
like food. Trust me, people worry about, trust me, you're hungry, you will be fed. If you know that and have faith that you expect to have a full stomach at the end of the day, you don't know how you're going to have a full stomach, but you will have a full stomach.
And that brings us to another expectation of what we're Mike and I had trying to convey here. Those expectations of having enough food or not having enough food, having enough money or not having enough money, comes from the survival plane. As we elevate up, we step out of survival mode into what I call living mode. Because survival mode, if you look at history, occurred like hunters and gatherers. Like, what's a hunter and gatherer now? You go onto Amazon, you push a couple of buttons.
Yeah.
I done my hunting for the day, honey.
Mm-hmm.
Do it, you know. And even money is directly deposited into your accounts and stuff like that. And even we'll get into another conversation about the influence of money, whether you have to, working 40 hours a week, and it's like, and if you value that way, that expectation will prove you right, but it's not true, because Bill Gates doesn't have more than 40 hours in a week than you and I do. He doesn't work it. Everyone has 24-hour cycles. So how is the value of it? So he doesn't look at, someone says, how much money you would make an hour? He'd be like, that's just the most ridiculous question I've ever heard. I don't base my life on an hour. I base it on an experience. So when you get out of that survival mode, watch what happens. Accept that you're in survival mode. Oh, I'm in survival mode.
You can't get out of survival if you don't accept it.
Yeah, you can't, because you don't know the way out.
Mm-hmm.
But once you accept you're in survival mode, all of a sudden you fall into neutral state, you rise above it. And I was like, oh my God. I set the story that I had to work X amount of hours, and then I also set the story that I'm only deserving of this many. So you go, if I want to make this much money, I got to work 60 hours a week. Oh my God, 60 hours a week. Okay, I can do it. And then you're like, wow, that's a tough road to go. And this is why people get exhausted. I can't wait till I retire. But that's a belief and an expectation that one must work and that I deserve that many hours. And it actually works. But then you're like, wait a minute. How come Jim up the block, he's always home and he's got a lot of money? Well, his expectation of how money comes is different. It's so much different. And then we get into out of survival mode. You don't actually worry about money. You don't worry about food. Money does show up. Food does show up. It just appears, so to speak, like when you were a little kid. You went to the table, it was there. You went to school, there was money in your pocket.
That natural vibration, that natural expectation is only going to bring that reflection.
Now, if you're in survival mode and you're listening to this transmission, I suggest don't necessarily take our word for it. You must experience it, because my word is meaningless to anyone that has experienced it. But if you have a little bit of experience, so in other words, if you changed your attitude and your boss gave you a raise, well, your attitude is a frequency output that says, I deserve more. Change the output again and see what happens. Keep shifting it. You don't have to wait 6 months or a year to shift your attitude. Like, it's like, hey, the boss gave a raise. Well, go in tomorrow and ask for a raise. Wait, you just gave it to me yesterday. I can't shift. I'm like, you can shift in a moment's notice. Just play with it. But play with things that, whether they happen or not, are no big deal.
That's the point.
If you do and you see it happen, then making $1 million no big deal. See what I'm saying? When you actually take a place, you don't actually lower the expectation, you drift up towards it. It's a trick of the eye. People think, I'm not lower, I'm not telling you lower your expectation. I'm telling you accept where you are. And what happens is you rise to a higher expectation. Now, relative terms, if you mistakenly, you think it lowered. Now you say, well, $1 million isn't worth anything anymore. I'm like, no. It's because when you're out there, it's worth the value in which you're at. It doesn't overly excite you anymore. What excites me is the ability to control my altitude, not what I'm seeing. Although what I'm seeing is going to want me to see more.
Absolutely.
I'm in control of my altitude change.
So, like, on that same note, a big thing that I feel like what we'll get people will get caught up in is that point of trusting yourself and allowing yourself to know you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of sit there in our heads and we'll say like, oh man, I need to do a little bit more research into this, maybe I'm not doing this right, maybe I'm not doing this meditation right, maybe I'm, I need to just have, a little bit more training in this, and, after 2 years I'll be good, on this subject. No. Trust yourself now, at this moment, that you are just right.
And one of the ways to trust yourself is ask yourself, how do you empirically know you're doing something wrong? How do you know? Well, my third grade teacher told me, so they hold the king to the kingdom. No. My parents are like, oh, so they hold your key to the kingdom. No, only you do. Yes, you might have bought into that. But now that you know you bought into it, let it go. How do you know you're doing anything wrong?
Because who said so?
Yeah. The feeling you have comes from thinking I'm doing something wrong, not the thing. Yes, you might do some stuff that's not preferential. Move on from it. But when I realized I went the wrong way, I didn't do anything wrong, it made me realize I went the wrong way. I got distracted. So through that understanding of distraction, it's going to be a long time before I get distracted again. So did I do anything wrong? No, I just simply got distracted. Again, I'm telling a story, and I'm making it up, so I'm lighting up. How do I know I'm doing anything wrong? When I ask that question, like, yeah. How do I know I'm doing anything wrong? Now, when you come at it and you feel better, I'm like, okay, do I want to continue down this path? No, I'd rather head west, so then head west. Or, yes, this is the direction I'm going, but people tell me I should go the other direction. Well, they don't know anything, so listen to it. And when you listen to your intuition, it will move you along the stream of life in the form of living, and then accolades, things will appear, and then people will say, who knew? They'll see that it's working for you. Do not try to convince anyone, I have to go this way. Just go. Show them. Who knew? And that's what it's at. But if I have to sit there at this point and have a feeling, intuition, that I want to go this way, but before I go, I have to explain to everyone around me why it's going to work. Well, your higher self hasn't explained to you how it's going to work yet, because you haven't taken the first direction. If I don't make the first right when it says right, I'm not awarded the next direction.
And it's never, going back to what you were just saying, and it's never, I told you so. It's more, come join me.
Yes. No, because if you say you told you so, you're off track.
Well, that's the thing. When you're really in this realm and really playing in this third dimension, that's not even a concern of yours.
No.
Like, it's just not. You don't want to be petty, or you're not trying to be snarky, because there's no...
Well, if you find
you're
yourself...
a soul reflection of yourself.
Yeah,
so
if you find yourself petty, you're not even there.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
you're just going in a circle faster than the guy next to you. That's
it's
what
just
you're
never
doing.
like, oh, I'm going to do all... Because a lot of people want success to prove people wrong, and that's why they're not getting success.
Nope.
It's because they're... Not because you don't want it for the right reason. No, it's because you're pushing on something with the false, or I shouldn't say false, with, what's a good way to say that?
Well, you try to look at the outside world to see where you're at, rather than say go in
there you go.
And then reflect onto the outside world.
Perfect, exactly. You're expecting the outside world to show you what you want to feel on the inside.
Yeah, it'd be as ridiculous as going up to the screen of the movie and trying to like wipe it clean.
Truly.
I'm like, what are you doing?
That's a great
The
way
only
to
thing
say
you do with the screen in front of the thing is make some animal figures up.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing. People, like, I'll see it all the time. Oh shit, I even did it. I even experienced. Oh, I'll show them. Oh, I'll do this and show them.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I remember watching a show on theater. It was like one of these these daytime shows.
Oh, like a soap opera?
It wasn't a soap opera. It was a talk show.
Oh.
Guy shows up, and I guess in high school he was picked on by this individual, and you know he looked a certain way and whatever. So over the years he went to the gym, and he was so focused on this person, and he had this person fight. Now I don't know if it was staged or not. It could have been, but it doesn't matter. It was proving a point. So this guy waited like 10 years to face his bully that tormented him. Just completely tormented him. Said he was this and that. Well, he shows up. He's all buff and this and that. He's got money now. He's like this, and the guy that tormented is like, "Hey, how's it going? How you doing?" It's like I was like, "Oh, I wasn't aware I had that much effect on you." Well, he made the guy go to the gym 5 days a week. You know, do this. He was miserable. The guy showing up on stage with the "I'm going to show him" was miserable. The other guy's like, "Oh, I'm sorry I did that to you. I wasn't aware."
And that's the thing. We carry, so we have these
Yeah.
experiences, and we think that defines
I'll
us
show
so
them.
Yes,
Attitude.
exactly. And
They don't even know.
And it's like, guys, no, only you have developed this little mindset, and so every time you have that thought and that feeling, you're triggering your body to truly, you're reliving that exact moment.
Yeah.
You're experiencing exactly, you are reliving all of that pain. Anytime you have that thought pattern and feeling that comes back, your body does not know the difference, and you're reliving it.
And it does show you can actually create what we call accolades in life, even under that distress. But when he went,
Some of us feed off of that
yeah,
feeling.
yeah,
Like the guy in
and
the
you
gym.
can get more money, get a better body if you think
Yeah.
that's what it is. But when he came to present it in front of the world, it was probably a worse experience than what he experienced in high school, because now it wasn't just one person like, "You're an idiot," it was millions of people watching the show. And it dawned on him, it was like, "Oh my God,
For the
What
last
was I
10
doing?
years.
did you enjoy working out? Did you enjoy making the money? Did you enjoy doing it?" "No, I needed to prove something." I'm like, well, then it was all for nothing. If you don't enjoy it, who cares?
And that's the rut and
Yeah.
circle rat race that we
vicious.
all get stuck
That's
in.
the carrot. So the carrot is,
You're gonna be happy.
yeah,
As soon as you get this job, as soon as you get that house,
Never.
as soon as you get that raise.
Yeah, if you're waiting for that to
No.
be happy, you won't be happy. But if you're happy, obtaining those things can be done. But you don't really care. You don't concern yourself. I shouldn't say you don't care. You don't concern yourself, because now when you have the money, you're like, "Oh, my God, this works."
I expected that.
So now the money doesn't create the happiness, it just perpetuates it. The fitness doesn't create the happiness, it just perpetuates it. So there is this perpetuation of it.
Absolutely.
It's not the
You'll-
causation, but yeah, when you flip it around, it can then continue the perpetuation of you continuing to stay happy within and to project out.
And when you feel good, you're not going to want to slow yourself down by eating poorly. When you're feeling good,
It
you're
wouldn't
going
occur.
to eat good.
It wouldn't occur to
And
you.
when you eat good and when you feel good, you perform well and you will earn well.
It'd be like
This is
having
a
$1 million in your
natural,
pocket and going through the
natural progression.
It'd be like having several $1,000s in your pocket and having to go through the grueling agony of asking someone, "Can you spare $1?" No, it wouldn't occur to you because you don't need it. You already contain it. And the thing is when you were born and came here, everything that you need to move through this experience, you already contain within you. You just have to reach in your pocket,
We have it.
go within to see it. Otherwise, you're going to be waiting for the person to give you that thing.
And truly, we all experience this. I know, because I used to feel like that for years and years. We're waiting. Oh, that opportunity is right around the corner. We're waiting for that handout.
Yeah, it's like you're like the guy with the cardboard box.
We think it's just gonna happen. We create this little story that it's right around the corner. I'm just waiting for that big break. Trust me, you will continue and stay waiting.
Yeah.
You will. And why? Because you haven't
You're
set
in a
a
state
time.
of waiting.
Yeah.
Whatever
that's
state
the
you're
thing.
in, you're always in a state.
Exactly.
If you're in a state of waiting, you're always waiting.
So you will perpetuate that feeling, and you will live in that constant cycle of missing that opportunity or, you know, losing this job.
Now let me further clarify this, because this is where a lot of people got stuck, and I got stuck years ago when I heard this concept. At any moment in where you are, say I have $5 in my pocket. I have the ability, the free will, to perceive $5 is abundant. I also have the ability and free will to perceive that $5 is lacking. Now, when I take that $5 and I perceive it to be abundant, it grows into 10, then to 20, then to 100. See what I'm saying? The $5 can never, ever, ever stay the same. Now, if I look at that $5 and look at that as lacking, it turns into $3, $2, minus. I owe $5 now. Now I owe 10. Now I own 1,000. It will expand. Even the $5 that's lacking never remains the same. It will expand in whatever direction you look in. The universe already has that played out into it. Whatever perspective film I put across the light, it will expand onto that big screen. The light is this big. You think about it, like what's a projector light? Like this big? How big is the screen? It expands onto the screen. It's what you put in front of the light that matters. What perspective, what movie perspective, what expectation am I putting in front of that screen? Will expand onto the universe. It will never remain the same. Because if that because the film was like this big, if that remained the same, I'd be like, I can't see the damn movie. Like, it expands. The $5 will expand into greater poverty, if poverty is it. Greater debt is what we call it. Or the $5 will expand into greater wealth, if you look in that perspective. So realize that wherever you are, you can claim you are abundant. You could also claim your poverty, because I know people with money. I'm broke.
Oh yeah.
I was like, you got $1 million. Yeah, but my output is 20 grand a month. I'm like, and that's gonna go in
That's the
perspective, right? Someone that says that guy has $1 million, how can I feel sorry for him? Well, his output is
1.2.
Yeah. So in the logical understanding, how we think of logical understanding, that would not sustain itself. But see how I'm saying? So in the same factor, I can look at $5 and say I'm abundant, and not even have to be 5 years old to say that. I could be this adult I am right now and say I have $5 in abundant, because I know the laws, and I can take that $5 and expand it onto the screen.
Well, also the trick is, if you see yourself as that $5 of lack, or that diminishing $5,
it will expand into it.
Oh, that exactly. You'll only continue to go down that path.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you have $5 or if you have $2 million.
Yeah.
You know, like you're saying.
Because if you have $2 million, you still want that to expand, or the experiences that are around it to expand. But the expansion isn't predicated on your happiness. Your happiness is the light expanding.
I guess what I'm saying is, if you feel, no matter on any level, $5, $2 million level, that you're not bringing in what you need to, and you feel that suffocating effect, or that effect that you're drowning, or the littlest slip, yeah, it's the same feeling. There's no difference.
Whether you drown in a puddle or in the ocean, it's the same feeling.
Yeah, seriously.
How big of a body when you drown?
Like, drown in a kiddie pool,
if you're gonna drown.
You have to have underwater. It's gonna suck.
You drown. Yeah, it's the same.
That's a great way to say it.
Yeah, you don't need that much water around
That's the thing we think. Oh, rich, and that's the thing that we need to realize is we look at all these people and everyone assumes, oh, they have money, they don't have any problems, and it's like, guys, wow, no, we all create these different problems in our daily life because of this expectation of a perfect life, how it should play out, A, B, C, D.
And where did that come from?
And not a feeling, which is joy, love, abundance.
And where did that come from?
Oh, the program. I mean, our experience.
And again, there's some validity to this. So if I looked at someone and they honestly said, I'm happy, and I look at them and I see them, oh, okay, they have a nice car and I know the value of that car, they have a nice house, I know the value of the house. And all of a sudden they tell me they're happy, and most of their life they're happy. Yes, they have downtimes, no big deal, they overcome them. So what I then mistakenly do, what most of us start doing, and I've done in the past, I don't do it anymore, instead of asking them the ultimate question, I ask them the underlying question, which gets me lost. What did you do to get that? And in this case, it's the wrong question. It isn't what they did, because you can't do what they do. It's already been done. The question that's really at the base of all things is, how did you feel in order to permeate the understanding to what to do? It's not what they do, it's how they felt as they were doing it. How do you feel about life is what life will grant you. Not what you do in life, it's how you feel about life that will grant you poverty, will grant you abundance or wealth. Because there are people that do a lot of stuff that don't have abundance. And there are people that just don't do a lot of stuff that have awesome amounts of abundance. How is that, possible? It's because what you can't see is where the secret is. It's how they feel. And how they feel is their expectation of how to feel.
And that's the thing.
That is the true causation of everything. Yes, if I feel good, I'm going to do something and walk this way. But if you only look at that, you're going to mistake yourself, and then you're going to write down, okay, he did these 10-step things and he got here. I'm like, you could do 10, you could do 40. You're not going to get to where I am, because that movie's already done. It's like remaking a movie. Unless you're going to make it into an offbeat comedy, it's then a different movie based on the same thing, like Frankenstein. Well, then The Bride of Frankenstein. You can make different versions of Frankenstein, but it's never the same thing. Stop and realize, I want to expand like that person, but they're already wearing those shoes. I want my own shoes. What it is we ultimately want to do is, we want to be able to expand the way they did. How'd they do it? It's the expectation of feeling that allowed the expansion to come in front of the light. Then you see the other person. It was the expectation of the expansion that came in front of the light. One was preferential, one was not preferential. Period. Physics doesn't care. Expansion doesn't care. You and I perceive and we care. So why not choose a preferential expansion and take that $5 and declare to yourself, I am abundant, and watch it grow. The physics will watch it grow. So start with something small and watch it start to expand. Everything comes from a point, will expand outwardly till the horizon is met, and then you can't see beyond it. Right? The light is this big, but when you project it out, it goes on forever. In whatever direction you face it. So I suggest when you're wearing a helmet with a light on it, don't try to be cool and put it backwards and walk that way. You're not going to see a damn thing. Have the light facing the direction in which you prefer to go. Because if you turn the light around, because it's cool to do that, you're walking in the dark and you're going to trip. Because the light's reflecting in the way you're not going. And that's another metaphor or an understanding of seeing it.
I think one other thing we should touch on is during this expectation and this feeling and setting this intention, a big thing that will come up that you'll want to face and you'll want to run towards is fear. So the moments of fear will come up, and you'll create stories. Your ego will create stories about why not or why to, participate in certain events. Trust the feeling and move forth, and don't be afraid, because ultimately what you're looking at is a reflection of yourself. And if you can really get behind your head and realize that how how much of an influence you have on the outcome of any given situation at any moment,
Yeah.
and how in control we really are, the fear truly subsides.
Well, ask yourself the question, what is fear? And I say that there's no empirical answer to it. It's a question that each individual has to answer themselves.
And it's at different levels.
Yeah, exactly. As I move forward and expand, I look at fear. What is fear?
The unknown, and to some people. When in all honesty, the unknown
Is all we
is
have.
what we strive for.
Well, yeah,
We can
it's
only
what we
play
live
in the unknown.
Yeah, exactly. Because the known is somewhat laborious and dreadful.
And cyclical and the same.
Another day. No. What is fear?
But I mean, that's what I'm trying to explain. Fear to most people is the unknown.
Yeah, but we are living the unknown, so you can get that way. Fear is nothing but a concept. There is no entity of fear. It's a concept.
What you're saying, yeah.
Your
You're
fear never
absolutely
kills you. But running from something that bustled in the woods will make you run in front of the 18-wheeler and get killed. And you said, oh, that killed me. No.
Concept.
The truck killed you. Because you got distracted by a concept called fear. And when you're distracted by the concept of fear, guess what gets taken out of the equation? Your higher self. And the only thing that's placed in the equation is your old program memories that can only put you in a circle.
What's another name for a concept? A story. And
That's
again, choose the story you want to tell
Yeah,
yourself.
exactly. So, that's really it. And these are all concepts. Even what we talk about is a concept.
Yeah, so
only-
pick the right story.
Yeah,
Pick the concept, pick the story,
Yeah.
pick the expectation, pick what you deserve.
yeah. Because we're talking concepts here. But the reason you and I are talking concepts is to lead us and others to experience it, and that's truth. In other words, the word ring is a concept of the actual sound. Ring. But I go ring, 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 ring isn't a ring. It's a word I'm repeating. It's a concept. Just like a sign that says beach. Well, I don't go sit on the sign and say, I'm sitting on the beach. Well, yeah, ironically it looks that way, but it isn't. It's a concept that's pointing you towards the experience. And what is the beach? It's an experience. It isn't sand, it isn't water. Those are parts or things. But what is a beach? That's the beach. We're just concepts to get us to elevate and move towards something, to let go, to witness it.
Yeah, because I mean, like, why do we love Halloween's right around the corner? Why we love Christmas? It's not that we love a pumpkin. It's not that we love candy. It's the feeling of fall,
Of changing, yeah, because on the October 31st, everyone can actually be something different in an instant. They went in the room, it came out of the room, ha ha ha, look at me. And it's like, so why don't you change the concept to yourself every day? Well, this is why. It's acceptable for people to see me in this new concept on one day of the year. But it's not acceptable on the 1st of November. Like, what are you doing? It's Halloween's over. Go back to your old self. So we actually become enslaved to the concept that other people tell us is what we should do.
We are living by other people's perspective and living for a outside validation.
The expectation people put upon us. Another way of looking at the expectation. I expect you to take that off and but it's Halloween, so I give you that. Make every day Halloween. Choose the perspective. And again, you might look to the outside world the same, but you shift, changing. Put on the new veil of frequency. Make that your new Halloween costume. You know?
Absolutely.
Rather than, because when anyone puts on the costume, you notice their whole posture changes.
Mm-hmm.
It changes. Everyone that puts on a ghost costume always goes, ooh, right?
Well, that's the thing. It's the
They
same
put
thing
up, yeah,
with a daily life. Go give somebody a pair of, Van tennis shoes, some cargo pants, and a t-shirt, or give them a suit. They're gonna act differently in either outfit.
That's it. Yep, exactly.
Very different, and they will, trust me, be treated differently.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. We're living in this dimension. So if you don't
And
like
that's
something,
based
change
on
it.
that's based on the limited aspects of society's rules.
Oh, absolutely. But if
Because
we're
if you
allowing
saw a
that,
guy on a skateboard saying, "Hey, dude," he's got like those sun visor things on there, and it's like, oh, he was like, and then a guy walking with a suit, and in this day and age, and I said, bet all your wealth, and tell me which one is wealthy, or which one is poor. In this day and age, no one would take that bet. Because Tony Hawk is very wealthy. And there's a guy in a business suit that is broke as broke can be. But in the past, this represented wealth, this represented broke. You see how the
starting to
shift is happening?
break the construct.
Yeah, the construct is breaking. It's beautiful. I would never put that bet. I would almost say, well, the fact that someone's betting me, it's got to be the skateboard dude. Then I'll turn back on myself. Well, they want me to say that, so I'm going to go with the suit guy. I'm like, yeah, you got me. I'm not going to bet. I got to go there. But years ago, it was an easy bet.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't tell anymore because people are literally learning to wear their true suit. It doesn't correlate. Dress to impress.
And
who are you impressing?
And be open to change. Because like one of the pillars, change is always constant. Like,
yeah, you can be open to change
so
or not. It's
important.
happening.
Yeah.
If you're not open to it, you're gonna be aggravated.
Well, that's the thing.
If you go with it, you're gonna love it.
Look at all the pissed off people on Fox News. Like they don't like how shit's changed.
Actually, there's pissed off people on
Hey, by
all
the way,
news.
my parents watch Fox
Yeah,
News.
well,
so
there's
I'm not
pissed-
dissing anybody
Yeah,
watching
the thing
Fox
is
News.
this: there's pissed off people on all news.
Oh yeah,
There isn't a news outlet that isn't pissed off. The reason being is,
but because of change. And I don't.
Well,
I'm not saying
no.
a negative or a positive change. I'm saying change in general. It is change. from-
getting back to what is news.
Mhm.
News is trying to sell you and I a perspective.
Oh.
And if
a
I don't
specific
buy it,
perspective.
they get pissed off. I don't, I have nothing against any news broadcast. What
No.
they're doing is they're doing their job.
That's the thing.
They're doing their job. And actually, by them doing their job, they're keeping me highly focused. Right? Because if I was, say, like playing a sport and I was playing with someone that was inferior to me, they're not keeping me focused. But now if I'm playing a sport and they're in my face, they're making me focus. So these fake news or whatever you want to call it, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, it doesn't matter to me. They're keeping me focused, not getting sucked in. So I can actually watch it and pull from it what I need, but not get sucked in. And I thank them for that.
I know exactly what you're saying.
But I'm at that, like there was a place where I got sucked in, I'm like, God damn bastards, and you turn the other one's like, oh, they're the bastards. Oh my God, they're the bastards. Well, who's the real bastard? Please stand up, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you realize
On the
they're
other
each
hand.
trying to sell me something from the different side of the street. And I'm in the middle of the street.
And we all really want what's in the middle of the street.
Well, we don't. We want to get out of the street because we're going to get by a goddamn car. So what happens is they keep swaying us, and that's when we get run over by the car. I don't want to be in the street. I want to create my own thing. And this is, what I know is, I don't want to convince anybody of what to buy into. I'll never sell anyone a concept. I'll never sell anyone a philosophy. I do have philosophies myself. I do have methods I use every day. Well, they change periodically. But I don't want to sell you that. You already own a concept. You already own a program you came with. It wasn't given to you by the outside world. You already have a higher self. You don't need my higher self to guide you. But my higher self is telling others to say, you as well have a higher self. Matter of fact, my higher self is talking to your higher self. And my higher self is telling me, please listen to your higher self. Don't listen to me because I'll steer you wrong. And why do I steer you wrong? Because if you ask me, it'll be like this. I have a GPS. And I put in the address to go to LA, and I'm in Phoenix. And it says, head west, or whatever it does. And I don't fully trust it. So I get on the phone, I call Mike up. I'm like, hey Mike, can you please put this address in for me? And you put in the address. And then it says, what does it say? And Mike says, it says go south. I'm like, oh, shit, I knew mine was wrong. Why? What Joe says? Mine says head west. But what we don't know is Mike lives on the other side of town. He cannot. The only thing Mike could do, if he's kind, he says, Frank, please listen to your GPS and understand where I am standing is in a different location from where you're standing. So it's a different positioning from where you want to go. We both can get to LA, but how I'm going to get to LA from my house in the beginning is going to be slightly different than yours. So what happens is, I run with your head south, and I head south, and now I'm lost. I'm completely lost. Because I need to head north or west or whatever the direction it was I said. I am not telling you on what direction is in. Go within. Your higher self is working supremely. It never stops since the day you were born. Before you even came here, it was scouting. It was laying out. It knows where you want to go. Once you accept where you are, your heart opens up. When you love where you are, your heart expands. When your heart expands, your intuition comes in, your higher self comes in, your corporeal knows what a right-hand turn is, it knows the functionality of a car or whatever it needs to get around, it knows how to greet people, it knows all that, it knows the English language, it knows all that. That's a good program, that's not a bad program. That is the ego, but the ego is working for us, not against us. And then you listen to it, and then, oh my God, now you're experiencing it, it's no longer a concept. And that's how it works. So don't try to follow. Don't ask me what I do. Don't ask Mike what he does. Ask him, how do we feel about what we do? I trust it. Why do I trust it? It's not blind faith. It's faith because I've been doing it. Like, do you have blind faith with your GPS anymore? No, you know it works.
A feeling of it's how.
But you know it works. Mm-hmm. So every time you put an address in, you get it, it says make it right, you make the damn right, you go, and next thing you know there, it's like, yeah, it works. Do you sit around and say, hey, do you still trust that GPS? You know, the other day I didn't trust it. I just went home.
Well, I remember I told you that one time I heard that whoever it was compare like spirituality to like sexuality. You just know.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Am I doing this right?
You just know. Like.
Did it hurt? No.
It's just like, yeah. How do you know? I know because I
know.
feel whole.
If you have to mark it and check it and ask somebody, hey, excuse me, when I had, you just, like you said, and then you're like, and what's the funny thing is, like, talking about sex, all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, now I know why I'm here.
Yeah. Well,
and it's not to be a prostitute, by the way. Or a sexual deviant.
But like that's the truth, and you said it best. At the end of the day, we know the feeling that we want to go for.
That's it.
Move forward towards it, and hold that feeling, that expectation of joy, happiness, love, oneness, and that all of that will embrace you.
And if you do that, you'll have a perspective shift.
Thank you for this evening's
for
transmission.
tuning in. Peace. That was good.
That was
good.
That was. Especially at the end. I love that.
We're still recording too.
Oh yeah, I got
all
wow,
123.